Good
Hey,
morning.
good morning. Gaetan is still in Canada.
I'm
Roman's
still
got
in
his
Canada.
puppy. Yeah.
I'm
You're
on
in
the
Canada.
road.
I'm drinking a Canadian
T-
Cup.
Tim Horton, yes, yes. You know, Tim Horton beat every Dunkin' Donut in Canada, and they are closing one after the other. Now, Tim Horton is invading the northern part of the country, the U.S.
Aha.
There's some
Well,
Tim Horton in the north of Michigan, Wisconsin. I don't know if Oregon or Washington State they have Tim Horton there.
yeah.
Anyway, how are we
Yeah.
doing today?
Okay. Today we're going to be talking about one of your subjects, Gaetan, about the mutilation of dogs and the ears and
Yes,
tails and why it
yeah,
happens. And
yes,
Roman has provided us with a tremendous amount of information here.
and and
I'm going to put the link for everyone so that they can go to read about this and have the links because I'll tell you, it's a subject that I think everyone is not crazy about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay.
yes.
And I want to make sure we're not talking about mutilating unicorns. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just saying.
Well, I object to that also.
Okay. So, Roman,
I
let me ask you something. Yes.
may, okay. Just before I did propose a subject of the topic of mutilation, and my angle when I propose a topic is the form of mutilation which is done for fashion purpose, for the look of the dog. But there's
Right.
more to it. And
Yep.
Roman did a great documentation. I saw what you put together in the past 2 days, and I would say, Roman, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So go ahead, Roman. Tell us what is the purpose of it and why would people want to crop their dog's ears and tails?
Well, first of all, we have to see the history of it back very in the back old times, um, where dogs basically were held with people for working purposes, and that follows the history of dogs before the dogs were introduced into the human society or human environment. So we're not talking about the 50 or 100,000 years of living with dogs. We're talking about the last, let's say, 5 6,000 years, where dogs being more used for, let's call it, as tools, as hunting tools or fighting tools, and or working dogs, more specific trained. And over the years um, of living with dogs, we recognize that having specific breeds who do the specific thing will also show specific characteristics. So if we want to have a dog who is getting involved with the herd, then we want the dog to look like the
Are
herd.
we keeping you awake?
Yeah, yeah. So if the dog is being held into that environment where he lives with dogs, with goats and sheeps, then we want the dog to look alike because the sheeps will easier to adapt to him.
Okay.
At the same time, he's also camouflaged with it. At the same time, having more fur will help him better in the cold. So we have all these specifics that we bred the dogs into. Now, with those things, we also have other issues going on. For example, we have the care of those dogs, especially if they're hunting dogs or herding dogs. So in nature, when people have dogs for herding purposes, they will get dirty, they will be with the goats, and they would have to clean them, and they have to go to the bathroom, and we have all these issues. So you know what? Why dealing with that? If I just cut his tail off, then he will not get so dirty, right? And if we clean up his butt more, then he will not get so dirty. So I have less maintenance with my dog because the sheep you will share off, but the dogs you wouldn't, right? So the other one that we see here is for hunting dogs. So we have to see that, for example, Cane Corso, Great Danes, and other hunting dogs were used to hunt big animals, for example, boars. And so I don't know if you guys ever seen on YouTube or on a documentary how boars being hunt. These are wild animals, like in kilograms, over 500 kilograms and up. I don't know how many pounds that are, but it's very big. It's like working with a cart,
1,000 pounds.
right?
It's over 1,000 pounds.
Right. And imagine that this animal can kill you just with slapping his nose like that and whatever is there. Now, at the same time, to kind of work with that animal or hunt this animal, you need multiple dogs, and those dogs have to coordinate with each other. So you will have 3 or 4 dogs attacking that boar, try to get to his skin or to his throat to kind of take him down without hurting the other dog. So you want to get rid of anything that comes in the way, especially ears and
Mm-hmm.
especially tails. And so
Right.
hunters saw the purpose of um, cropping and tail docking as a safety feature for the dogs to perform the job without bleeding to death in the field. So we get that. However, over the period of time, now we have already guns and we have special bullets, and the hunting is not so excessive that it was in the past. However, what remained is the look. Having a dog who looks violent and looks dangerous and threatening is kind of like a prestige for some people, and for some other people it becomes an asset. So we have a whole system perpetuating the ugly or aggressive or intimidating looking dog. At the same time, we still continue having dogs for certain purposes, for working purposes, and we continue something that's not really necessary anymore because we have already this improved animal husbandry. We are cleaner with the animals. The animals are not so exposed in this dirt that was in the past. They're cleaning machinery there, and there are so many dogs are actually only really need in very specific areas and countries anymore, because the most of the animals that we see, especially in US, are not working dogs. They're pets.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
and even yes, go
May
ahead.
I jump in?
Yeah,
Is that possible? Before we go too far in the line of modern time, you just show an example of a Doberman, two versions of the Doberman, one with the ear normal and one
yeah.
with the ear trim. So this modern time, this is where the question of about mutilation come to mind, and you start touching the topic of okay, it's look better, it's more aggressive, but the reality is that hurting the dog to have if they have a uh, flipping ear? I don't know how you call that, but
Yeah,
loose ears
floppy
with
ears.
flap, yes, and you trim that. Is that exposing the inner ears to infection and dust and water and other problem and cold?
Well, there is scientific evidence that suggests that if you expose the ear to the external um, environment, you will have other issues. So most of the ears that have this kind of upright ears have also a lot of hair in them. So they're covered and
Yes.
protected by it. The other
Yeah.
dogs who have floppy ears don't have so much hair in it, which means they're exposed to nature and rain and snow, right?
No.
Um, and there is another scientific evidence that says, dogs who have more likely yeast infections and ear infections, you should crop the ear because it dries out better. But the problem is not the ear. The problem is the highly processed diets the dogs are on. So we basically use that as an excuse to a treatment which is counterproductive, because I'm not addressing the core issues. I'm addressing the issues of the payment of the treatment, right? So instead of addressing the underlying causes of the dog struggling, we are just cutting the ears off. So we said now we have less issues. But the bottom line is, it's everything is cost involved. Cropping the ears is cost involved. Treating the dog for his ear infection is cost involved. So we try to kind of play around with the cost without treating actually the core issue. So if nature would be, if we look into nature, nature would take care of that, as she did with the dogs who have upright ears. She has more hair there, so it dries
Yep.
better, but at the
Can
same
can we
time, there's nothing in.
yeah, can we take two examples?
Yeah,
Doberman versus German Shepherd.
yeah,
And these are a very good example, I think. German Shepherd, ears straight up, very furry, very, very covered with a lot of hair in the ear. They are well protected naturally. The Doberman, as an example, you can take the Hush puppies or
But
other breed.
Doberman, Ken Corso, Great Danes, they're all the same.
Right, right.
Like
There's a
from the
lot
ear
of dog with,
structure.
yeah, with floppy ear. And the floppy ear cover the inner ear, and there's a natural protection there for the dog. So that's two examples.
Right.
So that, I want to just make sure that we understand the two examples there, and we carry. I will jump because this is I'm very passionate about that. As you you might see. So sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. Your presentation is impeccable as usual, and I just want to make sure that we have our audience with us and they understand. Example: don't trim your German dog ear; they're fine.
Okay, go ahead, Roman. Sorry for the interruption. That
No,
wasn't
that's
an
not
interruption.
Oh, I was interrupting.
No,
Sorry.
it's a
No,
very
no,
valid
no, I'm
point.
only kidding.
Okay. The other thing that we see with tail cropping is when we have, for example, dogs like herding dogs who work in the field, and we don't want an animal to pop out of the group and expose itself, especially if it's a guardian breed or we don't want the dog, not if it's a guardian breed, if it's a herding dog. We want the dog to be able to move around the animals without having deficiencies. So having a lot of dirt on your tail will create problems. At the same time, if the dog has to go to the bathroom and have to be clean, and the dog is carrying around all this dirt on his tail, and if he has a long tail, it's really a problem, right? So we see that people also reach out to their um, we call them bobtails in England, but they are actually uh, sheepdogs, English sheepdogs, and then we have the border collies. They have tails because for some reason they have less hair that to deal with, and then we have the Australian shepherds, that being dog tails, and then we
Yeah.
have the pointers, the German pointers, and then we have other hunting dogs. I miss the name right now. That we have issues. For example, the spaniels. So the
Hmm.
last thing you want is a spaniel who is a flusher to deal with his tail if he's going through the bushes and get tangled up there because his tail is very floppy. He needs his tail to navigate quickly around the terrain, gives him a lot of mobility, but at the same time, he's getting through these, um, bushes, and he's gonna get hang up in that, right? And his ears
Yeah,
too.
but I have a question.
Yes,
Is the tail is a factor in the balance of the dog, especially when
yes,
it's running?
yes. You can see that very clearly if you look at greyhounds, where they use the tail as a counterbalance, as a momentum keeper, by keeping the spinning. So if the dog goes to the right, he's going to spin in different directions. Go to the left, he's going to spin the other direction. It's kind of like keeping his momentum upright on his spine
Hmm.
to keep his body aligned. Now,
Right.
we see that also very often when we see dogs interacting with each other, which is another factor that the docking is a problem. Not because of the physical alignment with the dog, but also we see it from a communication perspective, and we're going to go later on in the medical perspective. So if we have a dog meeting each other, they're facing each other, so you will see the face. Hold on a second, I'm going to grab here my little friend Blackie. I know he's a fake dog. Sorry, buddy. Hold on a second. I want to show it to you, and so I have it a big size here. So this is Blackie, right? Do you see anything of
Right.
Blackie?
Yeah.
Nothing, right? Now, let me show you something. Do you see that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
You see the tail in the back?
yeah.
Yeah.
Blackie's happy. Now, if I cut the tail off, do you see how happy or
You
unhappy he
can't
is?
tell.
You
Yeah, you
don't,
can't tell. Right.
right? And so that tail has so many informations. Having the tail up, right, is confidence. Having the tail up,
Come
it's
on.
neutral. Having the tail down is fearful.
Come.
At the same time, having a tail wagging very quickly is tense. Very wide is more relaxed, and not at all is stressed. So there's a lot of information coming in with the tail that by cropping the dog tail, that information is lost. So there is lack of communication between one party and the other, which causes behavior issues. Because if
So
the
then
other
it
dog
becomes
doesn't know,
harmful to the dog. It's harmful
right?
to the dog.
Imagine you have
Yeah,
a person and cannot talk. That's a problem.
right.
So the other problem is, imagine I want to know how you feel and you don't tell me how you feel, and if I come too close, you're gonna bite me because you didn't tell me how you feel. So I thought we were fine. I
Yeah,
thought
right.
because I don't know, right? And so we see this very often that people misinterpret the tail. So we have other dogs like bulldogs and pugs who don't have a tail, a very very stubby tail, or which is a
Okay,
great.
okay, that was a question pending in my. Is there any breed of dog with no tail or very short tail?
Yes, yes, there is a breed of dogs
Okay,
who have no tails. They're called hot dogs.
thank you.
Yeah.
No, the tail is part of the animal that is necessary. There is also a specific gland at the end of the, or the very beginning at the base of the tail, and it's called supra whatever. I don't know how you can spell
Your Latin is not very sharp this
supracudal.
morning.
Yeah, supracudal dale. The gland. Sorry, my English is so poor. I'm so sorry for
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
So what happens with this gland is basically a gland that sits. Let me get Blackie here back because Blackie knows everything. Come on, buddy. There you go. So
Handle with care, please. It's a
yeah,
dog.
handle with care. I have fully consent. So the gland we're talking about is exactly here around that corner. You see
Yeah.
what the butt here's butt entrance, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not the ticket, right? A little bit higher. So that is around here. So here we have a gland, and why dogs go and smell the butt? Because of that gland. That
Yeah.
gland gives information, exactly. Okay?
Yeah.
So if you will see that gland, not many veterinarians know about that, right? Because nobody studies that actually. But there's this oily gland that actually has hormones and proteins that come to surface to indicate as a marking, as environmental marking. Hey, I'm here. This is who I am. It's kind of like my passport. Exactly
Yeah.
that.
My
Now,
signature.
now, if I tuck the tail, I will cut off that gland, which is important piece of information too, right?
Yeah.
So we know it happens with foxes. We know it would happen with dogs too, and wolves have it too. But because it's not really in use in pets, we're not paying attention to it. But in the wildlife, it's very important gland because it gives information.
Hmm.
And you will recognize once the dog has issues there and his tail is coming out, his skin and his hair is gone, then you see like what's happening to my tail? People says, oh, he has allergies, or you start treating for allergies, which is actually a gland issue. Now, the other problem that we see here is that medical part, but also we have another thing that is called phantom pain. And think of a veteran who lost his leg or a worker who lost his arm or something, where something happens that one finger is missing, and all of a sudden you have this itch in front of the finger, and you cannot stop it from happening.
Yeah,
It makes you anxious, right? So
right.
imagine a person who has a phantom pain on his leg, and actually his leg is itching or in pain, and you get crazy about it. So imagine a dog has a phantom pain on his tail, which actually can cause aggression. So I've seen dogs who've been docked,
Wow.
who shows aggression. Nobody knows why. All of a sudden, the dog attacks the other dog for no reason. And then we look closer into it. We see the first thing the dog does, he looks in the back, right? And then he attacks his dog who's next to him because somebody beat him, but there was nobody there. The only one who
Yeah.
was there was next to each other. Obviously,
Yeah.
he was the one who hurt me. And that becomes an issue. Now, there are not lots of studies done there because studies cost money and time, and nobody has time and money to spend something that nobody really needs, other
Yeah.
than the dog. And so this is gone uneducated under the radar, but it is there. And just
Right.
because the dog
Yeah.
doesn't complain physically about it, says I have a phantom pain, he doesn't know, he doesn't tell you, he just feels it, and he reacts to it. So we see all
Well,
these things happening.
I have a question, but which
Yes.
is probably very obvious. But if you think of it, some people say that the reason that they have the dog's ears cropped is for hunting purposes and for health purposes and all that. What about a basset hound that has these long ears, or the dogs that have the long ears? Does
Well,
that mean that they get
the
does
most
that
dogs
mean
who
that
have
they get sick?
infections are actually dogs who are hunting dogs, but you don't see their ears cropped. So those
Yeah,
dogs who really
right.
have
That's my point.
issues, they're not cropping the ears. But this
Yeah.
guy who cropped the ears have the excuse for it. Honestly, baseline is the following. If you care about your dog's ears and his infections, then feed him healthy,
There
comma,
you go. There you go. That's a
right?
good point.
The
Yeah.
next thing I want to say is if you're not hunting every day with your dog and this is a need for survival, then you don't need to crop your dog's ears and his tail either. If you don't have
Yeah.
three dogs going for a hunt, you don't need to crop his tail either. I mean,
Mhm.
I have an intact cane corso, and all my dogs were intact except of those who I got through rescue who were not intact. But this guy who were cropped had all problems. Right?
Okay.
I had a cane corso. His ears were so bad that basically I had every day to clean his ears like being in a medical room, like completely clean out. Once I got him on a diet, he was able to be healthier and his ear problems were gone. So that he was fine.
Okay.
So
So
I
here
understand, right? I understand the need of cropping the dog's ears from the visual perspective because a floppy ear dog looks kind of like blah. But the one with, I mean, come, give me a break. Literally, I like. I know it sounds weird, but they look strange and how you call it,
mutilated.
grandiose, right? Having a
Yeah.
dog with cropped ears, and it looks intimidating sometimes. But we have to be honest here, there is a consent issue, okay? And I know we
Yeah.
cannot ask a dog yes or no cutting your tail or ears, and I understand the medical purpose of it. So if the veterinarian says we have a medical issue and we need to do that,
Right. Then you want to do it. Yeah.
then we need to follow through with it, which is a perfect procedure. I know some people says, well, better do it now than later. Really, better now than later. Like better have you implant a heart pacemaker just in
That's
case for the future. No, it's not
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
Okay, so the chances, and there is no rule to that. There is no scientific evidence that will says your dog will likely get there. It's just a sales pitch for somebody to do something that he gets paid for.
right. Yeah.
And
It's not
honestly, I haven't
necessary.
seen
It's
a
not
scientific
useful.
paper. I haven't seen a scientific paper
What
who
Gaetan?
actually.
Well, I was saying it's not needed. It's not useful. It's not good. And in an extreme case, as you mentioned, in an extreme case, maybe trimming the ear might be a solution, but there's probably many more steps to do before getting to that point.
Well, the
And having
veterinary
a dog with
association.
the ear trimmed just for the look of it,
Well, there was an
I'm not
attempt.
happy with that.
There was an attempt since the 1800s to actually stop doing that, but there are organizations that are supported by their members, right? They want to keep it up because they say it's a breed preservation. No, cropped ears is not a breed preservation. That's not the
No,
Yeah.
case
Right.
because it's not
Well,
it's
something
you
a
that
do.
you
Do
man
have
you,
to,
ego.
right? On the other
do
hand,
you think
yes.
do you think to a certain extent that people are just following a trend?
Well, there are
Oh
policies in
yes.
place. There are politics in place. So each group and association has their policies and politics, and those members who have more to say will push an agenda or not. We see this with German shepherds, we see this with bulldogs and pugs. I mean, it's going really downhill to the point that the institution themselves says, "Whoa, hold on, okay? You're breeding a dog who is sick, and make that something to conform to, right?" But the veterinary association is very clear. It's unhealthy, and they try to push this organization to stop requesting it. So now in Europe, for example, some groups say, okay, you don't have to. You will pass the test, either or, short or not, short ears or crop tail, but it's not something that's going against you if you don't have to. But in the reality is they do under the radar. It's depending on what judge is up there and what politics are being played at that point.
Okay, I lost. We lost for a second there. I'm
Oh, we were
sorry,
just
folks.
talking bad about you.
Okay, we don't see you, Roman. We don't see you. So,
Uh-oh.
I see
okay.
him.
You see him?
I see
Okay.
him. I see him. I hear him. There
Okay.
was
All right. It was just
no
me
breakage.
then. Okay.
Don't blame yourself.
Okay.
Technology might play trick on us.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But the
So,
Roman
Okay.
was clear and was, was there all the time, by the way.
Okay.
And basically, what he's bringing to the conversation is the ethical aspect of owning a dog and then deciding or not to mutilate the dog just for our own pleasure. And as
Right.
Roman mentioned, nobody asks the dog what he think about it.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
you have
but
10 fingers. Would you like to have your finger shorter because it's more fashionable?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
mhm.
Right. Well,
I
it's
I want
almost
to make
like
clear.
people are. It's almost like people are doing it as like plastic surgery for dogs to have them look better. You
Yeah,
know.
it's
That's
even
exactly
worse
what it
than that.
is. So
Yeah.
I want to make clear we're not sending the message that people who do it are abusers.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
because usually, and I hope people will go to a veterinarian and it's being done correctly. Veterinarian understand the length of the tail that can be docked. But I'm going back to nature and says, you know what? The dog was born with a tail. That means there's a reason for it. The dog is
Yeah,
born with a dew claw, which is also part of mutilation. There is a reason for that. And there is scientific evidence present that dogs with dew claws on the back legs have less joint issues and less ligament issues and muscle problems than dogs without because they need it. They don't need it
yeah,
until they need it. So if
Yeah.
you
yeah,
there's a video study actually done for a dog running, and we see if the dog leans into kind of to go and work it out, his leg goes lower and his dew claw gets involved to hold the dog from slipping away. It's like an anchor. Well, he
Wow.
doesn't need it all the time,
yeah.
right? Until he needs it.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't need our thumb all the time until we need it.
Hmm.
Don't cut it off
Yeah,
because we do nothing with it, right? And so we have to be very careful that just because some people say it's a hearsay, there's no scientific evidence behind that or against it, doesn't mean it's okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
just
I
because
totally
I
get that.
cannot prove that the Earth is flat doesn't mean it is.
Yeah. Right.
Sorry.
Right.
and there's still people thinking that the Earth is flat.
Why
I
are you?
met one like a year ago. He was a passing flyer. He said, the Earth is flat. Here's a scientific demonstration of it. It's a mathematical formula and blah, blah, blah. Really? Okay, go in orbit and let me know.
But it's a very hot topic. That's
Yeah,
about
it is.
right. Um, it's a very hot topic, and I know very many groups in particular have an do not post about cropping ears and docking tails policy. So you say something about it, you're gone. And actually, because I like touching those points, I post it on my Facebook group and it says, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's have
Right.
Yeah.
people really see the
Hmm.
whole point. I'm not judging those or those. It's not a judgment post, but I want to see people that you don't have to because everybody does it. Just because
Right.
everybody does it doesn't mean it's the norm. And I
Right.
think I remember somebody posted something in my group about what about circumcising? I was like, really? Have you asked those people before they're being done if they're okay with it? Because
Uh huh.
scientific evidence again says that those people who have this done, and it's not because of religious reasons, they have issues. They
Mm-hmm.
don't talk
Yeah,
about it because nobody talks about those issues, right? But
right.
they're there. And I know many people who actually try to fix it, medical and surgically, to get it back where it
Yeah,
was normal.
yeah.
And it's just
It,
because it's kind of a modern time thing. No, it's not really. There's a reason for that.
there was in Montreal in the 50s and early 60s a trend that every boy born needed to be circumcised, no matter what, no matter what was the reason. There was no reason to it. There was no religious reason. There was no cultural reason. And They were doing that at birth, practically a day or
That
two after
was
the
the
birth.
medical reason. They thought it's helpful. So they
It's
thought it's
not.
going to help you for not getting certain injuries. And if I remember right, I actually responded to one of those posts. If you guys want to look at it, somebody who said that, and it was about syphilis. And back then, they thought, if you're circumcised, you're not getting syphilis. That's why they did it
Yeah,
proactively.
right. Well,
Okay.
But
there's a lot of traditions and things in different countries that relate to humans, relate to animals, etc. So this is just another one of those things that started out as being a health issue, and now it's become a trend. It's
What?
become a way of life. And what we're saying is that if you do it, it's okay, but do it for medical reasons. Don't do it because you
yeah,
want your
yeah,
dog to
yeah.
look like.
I
In
feel people hold on to that, like the Fourth Amendment, whatever it's called,
Yeah, right. Fifth
right?
Amendment.
It's kind of like, just because you have that doesn't mean you can do it.
Yeah, right.
Okay?
Yeah.
It doesn't refer you have the right, you have the obligation
yeah,
to know about
yeah,
things.
Yeah,
In many
it's kind of
countries,
like this is the way we've always done it.
right, and we don't change it.
Well,
Well,
now let's
yeah,
change that.
in some cultures, also girls being mutilated, that's a cultural thing. And nobody asks the girls to do that. It's actually that's what's going to happen. And now we
Right.
know it's
yeah, yeah,
actually wrong.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's all
exactly.
perspective. It's a moral and
Okay,
ethical perspective.
yeah. A lot of these things are done for cultural reason, and the reason is not good most of the time. It's not based on any physical need or any physical reality. In some tribe in Africa, the circumcision is done at the age of 13, and all the boys of that age are lined up and they snip it, and it's become like, show me that you're a brave warrior, and look, they slap it, and they say, oh, you're a brave guy. We circumcise you like a
Yeah,
what? What thinking is that?
Oh, we
right.
are
Yeah,
advanced. We say if you don't have a phone, you're not evolved. So now everybody has to have a phone, right? So
yeah,
Right.
it's
exactly.
relative.
Yeah. Let's go back to the dogs.
Yeah,
Humans are another problem.
So I feel we should be very careful with the trends, and
Yeah.
hmm,
you don't need to be trendy. Be
right, right.
natural to your dog. If
Yeah,
your
so
dog really has a problem, it's not too late to address it later. It's
hmm,
not putting your dog in
Yeah.
more danger if you do it later. Yes, if your dog is 60 years old in human years, then the risk is higher, but the risk is not higher for cropping the ears for doctor putting anesthesia, no matter what it is.
hmm,
Yeah.
But also mutilation is also part of doing specific treatments into dogs. For example,
hmm.
we see the dogs talking tucking their stomachs to prevent bloat. And
Oh,
we
yeah,
have a lot of
okay.
scientific evidence that bloat, we don't really know where it's coming from, but everybody wants to tuck the bellies. Well, the reality is the dogs who are feeding healthy and eating healthy foods and fresh diets don't have those issues. But we don't talk about that. So if we would talk about that, then we have to cancel all those highly processed foods, because the reason why the belly is held in place is because of the tissue strength. And so you have less weakened strength of the tissue, it will erupt. And we know that all the dogs who have bloat have usually something going on with their diets.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so we don't talk about that. We talk about not preventing the diet. We're going to talk preventing by cutting things in and out because it's make better
Yeah.
money. So we have to be very
I-
careful with things.
Yeah. It's a little bit of 19th century thinking. You have a problem, we'll cut it
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
instead of addressing it.
cut it or burn it.
Right. Yeah.
Burn it, cut it, trim it, chop it.
Yeah.
Thanks
Okay.
God there's people of goodwill and good thinking. And I look for next year to have less and less unneeded mutilation by
Yes.
respect to the dog and its creator. I think God knows what he do with the dog. Why the dog has a tail? Oh, it's better when he run. Keep the tail.
Exactly.
Well, you
Thank
Okay.
see
you,
Well,
that,
Roman,
right?
for what you're providing here. It's
yes.
very, very useful. Thank you so much. Kathy,
Yes, I wanted to say that that was a great show, everyone. Next week, which bring in the first of
It's
the
next
year.
year. Oh my God.
I know
It's
next
our
year.
last
See you
session
next
this
year.
year.
Yeah. We're going to have Beth Miller, and Beth Miller is with Wagtown. It's going to be a very interesting show. Beth has, well, Wagtown is about locating pet-friendly locations, but she's just launched or is just launching in Ohio a thing called Smart Parks, Smart Dog Parks. And you'll be very interested to see how that's going to work. And actually, we're going to be incorporating that and incorporating the dog connection into the Golden Girls community. So it's going to be a fantastic show, everyone. And looking forward to seeing you then.
Golden Girls community? Wait a minute.
Yes, yeah,
What
yeah.
is that?
I'll
I mean,
tell you.
am
I'll
I
tell you about it
included?
in the next show.
Am I
We're not
included?
part
I'm
of the
a girl.
club.
Yeah,
Roman and I, we're not part of the Golden Girl,
yeah. No, you're not.
Golden Club
Yeah.
Girl. We're not part of that. We're too young,
Yeah. Well, not really. It's between
and
55 and up. Yeah. All
and
right, you
since
guys.
we have our original gender, so we don't fit the picture there. I would
Yeah.
like to say one thing: Happy New Year
Happy New Year.
to
See you
everybody.
next year.
This past year, we want to forget about it. The upcoming year, we want to look forward and see marvelous things happening in the upcoming year.
Yes, yes.
I was
Roman,
wondering
be
whether
happy as usual.
I
My
was
best to your family. Kathy, be well, be
Okay.
healthy, keep smiling. We love you.
Okay.
I
Love you
want to
too.
ask people what their thoughts for next year are. Like, what would you like to have next year for your dog, your relationship, the training things? Maybe
Good point.
people want to post things. What would they like to have different this year or next year coming up?
Yeah.
I would like to, very interested to read about it. That's my dog having
Okay.
fun in the background.
Okay.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Bye bye.
Happy New
Bye-bye.
Year.
Bye.
This was my lunch stop on the road. I'm driving back to Naperville, Illinois, and so far I drove over 3,600 kilometer, 2,800 miles, something like that.
Oh my
I'm not
goodness.
home yet.
Oh, we'll see.
I'll
Be
see you
safe.
next week.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be
Bye-bye.
safe. I'll see you next week. Be well.
Bye.
Happy New Year,
Okay.
everybody.
Happy New Year.
Bye-bye.
Bye.